Or are we ready, Stephen? Thank you very much. It happens to be 3 p.m. on Tuesday, April 23rd for the Deschutes County Commissioners. We are having a public hearing in Sun River. Thank you all for joining us today. If you're not in the room, perhaps you are online. So it is a continued public hearing. Cool.
Excellent. Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. For the record, Nicole Mardell, Senior Planner with Deschutes County Community Development. I do speak with a couple folks in the audience, so I'll give just a brief staff report on a little bit of background on this project. So wanted to note that this is our Deschutes County 2040 project. The full project website with quite a bit more information and the full hearing record is available at deschutes.org/2040. You can see a process page which shows kind of a 2-year process and a variety of the activities that we did when we were gathering feedback from community members to inform the document. And then the hearing page shows the actual, again, hearings since we began these with the Planning Commission in October. So this is a hybrid hearing. So for those that are in person, if you'd like to testify, please fill out one of these blue sheets here at the side of the room, and you can give that to me. And that helps us keep track of your address to keep you notified of project updates for this project. And before starting your testimony, please provide your first and last name, your mailing address, and please note that we're hoping, if possible, to keep our testimony today to 3 minutes, although the chair may allow for longer testimony, given that we don't seem to have that many people in the room with us today. For those that are attending remotely, which it doesn't look like we have any right now, but those who may be listening in via YouTube, if you'd like to testify remotely, you must attend using Zoom. So the link to the Zoom account is on that project webpage. Chair Adair will request that all Zoom participants use the raised hand feature to notify the commission that you'd like to testify. So to do that, you'll click the raise hand button at the bottom of your screen. If you're calling in on your phone, you'll enter star. So with that, I wanted to talk a little bit about the role of the comprehensive plan. So this is the county's 20-year plan for growth, development, and resource protection in the rural county. So everything outside of city limits. It contains a variety of legal requirements from the state. So being in the state of Oregon, we have a variety of specific requirements that we need to follow. For instance, what uses are allowed on farmland. But in our comprehensive plan, for the areas in which we have some discretion, we are able to create goals and policies that can inform future decisions like zoning code amendments, public investments, establishment of county programs, and things like that. So the comprehensive plan really touches on a variety of different topics, things like recreation to housing to historical and cultural resources. And this document is informed by quite a bit of community input through the 2-year process that we've had. It also includes quite a bit of data and analysis from our project consultant, MIG, who we've been working with. So just wanted to give a snapshot of some of our engagement so far. Won't highlight each of these, but just wanted to note we've conducted quite a few small group meetings throughout the last 2 years to get feedback to inform some of the draft policies that we have today. Had a pretty extensive email contact list and our website, of course, which served as kind of the repository for all project-related information. Throughout the process, we asked folks for their feedback on some of the big issues facing Deschutes County. So these are, I think, just a great example of those. Should the county allow for more types of housing, such as RVs or ADUs? And through our engagement process, we were able to collect some preliminary feedback before we began our hearings to help, again, decide what language was actually put in the draft. So that's all what led to the draft document that's been put on our website today. So the Planning Commission has reviewed this document. They had 3 public hearings and 132 written comments. Some of the major themes that came up through that process were trails, recreation planning, rezoning of farmland, protection of wildlife and dark skies, some concerns about protection of private property rights, lots of discussion about destination resorts, and water planning and management was also a major topic. We also had some feedback from our agencies. So the agencies listed here provided some pretty targeted edits, which are very helpful to staff in framing of things like natural resources and historical and cultural resources. The planning commission did vote to approve the plan 5-0, and a summary of their revisions is included in appendix A of or attachment A rather, of the packet today. I've also included printouts of that at the side of the room. But really their focus, they discussed quite a lot, again, similar to some of the feedback that was provided by the public. A lot of discussion about trails and the proper amount of regulation around trails, discussion of whether or not to include a policy related to the consideration of impacts for water quality and quantity when developing destination resorts. They also discussed exploration of a new zoning category, something between an EFU zone and a rural residential zone that could maybe allow for housing while still preserving open space in the high desert environment. And the planning commission also discussed quite a bit the use where possible of incentives versus regulations. So those were some key topics discussed by the planning commission. This is the continued hearing of the April 10th initial hearing held by the board. From that process on to here we are now, we received 140 comments. So similar to the planning commission process, a lot of the same topics, although we'll note that it really honed down to kind of three major issues that were presented from folks: the water planning and management, and a desire for potentially greater regulation when it comes to water planning and management, concern about rezoning of farmland and potential desire for additional regulations, wildlife protections, some kind of pros and cons to protecting wildlife, some desire to protect further, and also a desire to maybe rethink our current protections and approach that issue through, coordination with our state agencies. And we also received a couple of other topics in our comments, things like planning with cities on their urban reserves, so that they can grow into land a little bit easier in the future. Concern about a Blackfeet Ranch trail from City of Sisters to Blackfeet Ranch, and some concern about that. There was a comment about concern regarding airports and pollution to nearby residents, and also a comment related to additional policies to encourage renewable energy development. And then another comment that expressed some concern about renewable energy development and its impacts on wildlife and farming. We also received a new agency comment from the Confederate Tribes and Board of Winds. So this comment, they expressed some appreciation for some of the policies that are in the comprehensive plan, but had some edits for some of the narrative content describing their treaty rights on ceded land. So they provided some potential language for the board to consider. So with that, in terms of next steps, we have another hearing on April 30th at 3 p.m. at the City of Sisters City Hall. And with that, I welcome questions.
Well,
Go ahead.
it's great to be here at the Shark and Sun River. It's a real outreach instead of having our regular board meetings in Bend only. We're going to do this next week in Sisters area also. This is the feedback process for the proposed final comprehensive plan. So just kind of the big picture here. Thank you very much for that update. Looking forward to any input we can get here today, and yeah, then we'll take it home at some point.
It's nice to see more people are coming in. So yes. And if you do want to testify, please fill out a blue form. They're back there when you come in.
It'll be a really short hearing if nobody wants to testify. Yeah, and this is, thank you all for being here. And this really is an opportunity for people to share their vision, their values, in relation to the growth and development of Deschutes County over the next 20 years. So I'd love to hear from you all.
Madam Chair, if I may, just wanted to note, I had a question earlier. So we do have a draft plan with, policies and goals. So you could comment on those specific items or more general feedback. So if you just wanted to share your thoughts about the future of the county over the next 20 years, we're definitely looking for that feedback as well.
Okay, yes, and we did get an email this morning at 11:14 from someone in South County. She felt like we needed to pay more attention, and that will go into the record. And I thanked her for sending that email in.
I think that one was also asking about what happened to the Newberry plan, which we are still planning on doing. If no one else responded and explaining that, I can do that later.
And I'll work with, the board secretary. I actually didn't receive a copy of that email.
It doesn't, yeah, it didn't go to you,
So
unfortunately.
I'll make sure I get a copy of that so I can enter it into the record, and then I'm happy to respond to it as well.
Okay, great.
Thanks.
Oh. Oh, thank you.
This is also mine.
All right, thanks, Stephen. All right, so. Well, normally we have a 3-minute time restriction. Is there a clock?
I can look.
Okay, you can run the timer. Okay, Stephen, thank you so much. For those who have joined us and would like to testify, we would love to have you. If you would just come up to the table where Nicole was sitting and introduce yourself, and then please give us your feedback on our comprehensive plan 2040. Thank you, Jim.
No problem. Right, for the record, my name is Jim Pfister. Live in Piedmont Road here in Sun River, and have a mailing box over at the post office. So I just wanted to thank the county for a couple of things. One, in general, first thing I would like to set is to thank the county for considering the whole planning a meeting such as this in South County. I think with more of these, I think we will get a lot more interest from the South County residents to be able to come in, and certainly appreciate your appearances in Sun River, Lahaina, and anywhere else you'd like to go. Second, in terms of the comprehensive plan, I have glanced at it and I intend to spend more time on it. But I did want to thank the county for the thorough work that they have done on it to date. I think it's very effective to be thinking long-term and to build that vision for where the county is going to go. As you build a picture, you will then find a way to be able to run to it, and you can add definition, you can add detail, and you can even take away detail. So the fact that the county has spent so much time on this, I think is going to be very effective in terms of the long-term planning and long-term capabilities that you're going to enable. And just relates to South County, South County is a gem, I think, in the county itself. We don't see a lot of people come over the hill, and I know some of my neighbors probably are happy about that. But I think it's really great to see more people coming over, spending time in South County. The fact that Lapine is the fastest growing area in the county is not lost on any of us down here. There's plenty of room down here for us to grow. I think the attention on ensuring that we take advantage of the land that is in the boundary right now through the use of ADUs, through the use of enhanced building plans is going to be very important, because then you get to also keep the natural beauty, and that is one of the things that draws people down to the county. So those are just some quick thoughts that I had on it, but I did definitely want to thank the commissioners and the county for coming down, and hope to see you again.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim. I believe that we've already received a statewide award. Congratulations, Nicole. You'll have to explain the title of that award at a later moment. I know, because you have reached out to so many people. It's been amazing. So do we have someone else that would like to comment? You may when you're done, sir.
My name is Christopher Kell. I'm a resident of the county. And I am totally unprepared because I was failed several times to open the plan draft. But I understand that it's possible to get a copy and I would like to see it. So this is what I've been told is a high level comment, very high level. I hope that that's appropriate. My wife and I have property in Deschutes County for 55 years. Actually, the year we were married. We have obviously seen a few changes at that period of time. In the meantime, we have for various reasons lived all over the place. And when it came to deciding where we were going to spend our last years, there wasn't much of a choice in our minds. It was here in the Deschutes County, and we've lived here permanently now for 15 years. And we've watched Sun River develop, we've watched Bend, Lapine, so forth develop. For the most part, it's been good. It's hard to tell other people not to love the things that we love. And it turns out they do love them. But they're here for the same reason we are. And for heaven's sakes, we have to keep our eyes on what that is. There are a lot of quote destination resorts and destination areas. And after a generation or two, they are just not what they started out to be. We have to avoid that in Deschutes County. It's very special, it's very special. And I guess it's up to you guys to do that. And that means the nation we live in, basically. That includes the farms, the forests, and the places where people live. Just please don't get off that track. Development is necessary because a lot of people want to live here. You have to do it in a way that keeps the value that makes it special.
Great. Thank you so.
Thank you so much. And those sounded very prepared remarks. So thank you for joining us. And don't forget to do a blue sheet for us. And is it possible to get him a hard copy?
Already.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks. Thanks, Nicole. All right. Do we have any other parties in the room that would like to testify at this moment? Thank you.
I'm Andrea Polly. I've lived here for almost 13 years. And I think I served on a board with you for a while. And I'm a local real estate agent. I'm also on one of the HOA boards. So I see things that maybe not everybody else sees that's happening out here. I specifically live just outside of Sun River Resort, so more Three Rivers. And I live in an area where there are buildable and unbuildable lots. So I'm sure you're familiar with that, but if the water level is deemed to be too high, a lot is unbuildable. When we first moved here, buildable lots were beautiful. They were, just like the forest, no issues, and everyone in our community seemed to really get along. With the affordability crisis going on in Bend, I think that a lot of these unbuildable lots have been targeted by people who may or may not be able to afford a buildable lot. And so what we're seeing are a lot of people showing up in RVs, they're building shacks, and you name it. And quite frankly, they don't always have toilets. Sometimes there's buckets. I mean, it's a tough situation. In our particular community, there's, $2 million houses. And then there's also people living in this state. And what I'm seeing is it's causing a lot of friction. Quite frankly, it's hard for a lot of people to know what the county's statutes are and then see that they're blatantly not being enforced. Also, if you looked at the amount of taxes that South County's paying you, it would be a lot. I mean, we've got Caldera, we've got Sun River, we've got Three Rivers. You guys are taking in a lot of money here. So what I'm saying is I would really appreciate it if you could enforce your own rules. And the reason I'm asking that is because without enforcement, people are showing up. I see it all the time as a broker and they say, well, that person's doing that. Why can't I? And when I explain, well, they're actually breaking all the HOA rules, if there is an HOA and the CCNR, I'm sorry, and the county rules, they don't necessarily listen, right? Because there hasn't been a lot of consequences for these individuals that are blatantly breaking. And I will add that without proper septic, it's also polluting our groundwater. nitrate levels are going up, as we all know. And just, you want to say that everything flows north towards Bend, so take that for what, what you want. But, it's an issue, right? Obviously, I know there's been a lot of talk about putting in proper septic out there, sewer system. That's a big project, right? But in the very least, I'd ask that you please enforce your own rules. Simply putting a lien on someone who has no intent to pay that is apparently not effective. And us on the HOA are trying to get the word out that there are 16 officer our rules, and you know, my fear is that they're not ready to hear it, right? So it comes on our shoulders, which is tough because we're community members living next to everyone else. And all we're trying to do is just protect our community. Quite frankly, we want to keep our property values decent. And that's been a struggle that wasn't as difficult as it is now. The other thing I'd like to mention is if there's any way in the future that a preschool, high school, any of those services can come this way, that would be very appreciated. I have 2 boys that are in high school, and it's just been a real challenge for them to have to drive to Bend. And they're about to graduate, so this isn't necessarily about me. There's no way it'll be solved, but it is something that's difficult for people out here. A lot of people out here do work full time. A lot of them have to drive to Bend or somewhere else. A lot of your working people do live here, so yeah, please don't forget us. And I have read through the plan. Didn't really see anything that really helped us with any of those issues. But I do thank you guys for putting in the time, and I just hope that there's any way you could consider these issues. That you do.
Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
If I could just say a few things about code enforcement capacity. This is it is outside the scope of the comp plan, but since it was the thing that you specifically expressed concern about, you know, I'd just like to share that I think the problem is in the funding structure for our community development department where code enforcement lives. The community development department is essentially funded by application fees for, you know, new permits, and new land use applications. So if you've got, you know, if you have an issue somewhere where there's not an application pending, you know, say you've got somebody who's got a failing septic system, they applied for that maybe 25, 30 years ago. Their fees that they paid for that septic system are long gone. So if we're depending upon new development fees in order to have a code enforcement function at the county, then code enforcement is not going to be able to preserve quality of life for our residents the way that people expect them to. So this is, you know, I'm making a plug. I've been saying for the last couple of years that I think we need that there are functions within community development like long-term planning, like code enforcement that are extremely important to maintaining our quality of life, but which we shouldn't be funding through current application fees.
I think, you know, if I could,
Yeah.
I totally agree.
There's not a lot of people behind you, so we're good.
Your time is over. Yeah, you're done.
A lot of people didn't show up, but I will say I absolutely agree with that. And what's happening in our neighborhood, and I realize it's not huge. I mean, just in our HOA, there's over 620 houses. But there's a whole nother section above us that does not have HOA that kind of lean on us to voice our opinion. Well,
Yeah.
but what I will say is what we are running into is illegal structures.
Illegal.
There's people that are building 2,000 square foot homes without paying any fees. I mean, that means they're not paying property taxes, they're not getting permit fees, and they're probably not safe, right? They have kids in there, I mean, you name it. And so by not enforcing these rules, it's perpetuating and causing more issues. And so the neighbor who lives down the road who followed all the rules and paid all the fees is having a hard time understanding it. And ultimately they're coming to us at the HOA, which, you know, you'll probably get, we said we'll pass on
What HOA is that?
PRRH9.
Okay.
And we've offered to pass on these so that, you know, the other part of reporting your neighbor is it's
Oh, I
not
know.
anonymous, right? And that's, I mean, honestly, some of these people are in a tough position and their neighbors they don't wanna cause a fuss,
Yeah.
so it's put us in a difficult situation. But I think that it's reaching the point where something does have to happen because as you guys know, with the homeless sector too, we're starting to see them move down to our area. You want the power lines and, you know, it's becoming more of a concern. I think that 8 to 10 years ago, it wasn't an issue as much, not near as much, but now it's gaining traction. And we're small, we know that, but anything you can do, and not a lot of areas have this situation with these unbuildable lots that we do.
Right, you definitely are a little bit more
We're
unique.
small, we get
Yes.
it, but I'm just saying, you know, I mean, some local, you know, the new thing is they put up shops and some of these shops have been busted for you know, selling drugs. And
They get busted eventually.
yeah, some of them are burning down with guns in them. And it's just, anything you could do to help, I'd appreciate it.
So this is a growing area and code enforcement cases are open on some of the ones that it isn't as obvious that things are escalating for some of these properties, so open code enforcement cases. And we've got Supreme Court reviewing what can local jurisdictions do in the West Coast that are in a place that has a lot of public lands around it. And Measure 110 said, come on in to some people from around the country. So we are in the heat of that whole thing right now. We've got to make it better instead of watching it get worse. So I absolutely agree with you.
No, and I recognize that. I know there's only so many resources, but again, you know, when I look at the plan and everything, I'm just seeing how many resources, how much money do you guys get from this area? I bet, I mean, I'm happy to research.
Our room tax revenue is 74% last month. I check it out. It went up to 83%, the room tax revenue from Sun River. It is our chief source.
Right, so if you think about that, we don't have a high school, we don't have a preschool. We have one sheriff, I believe, that patrols. We don't have that many resources. And so that's all I'm asking is just
Yeah. Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Well,
That feeds right into my concept that we should be. If we want to, if we need services to maintain people's quality of life, we should be willing to pay for that out of the county general fund, which is your property tax.
At least
dollar.
a fair pro rata share, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of the community here feels like we pay all these taxes, but
and what
a
do we
lot of
get?
our money goes to Bend or Paragon or somewhere else where honestly, more people show up to hearings like this. So.
Why we're here today.
I know, and I thank you.
It's my car too.
I mean, one other thing about code enforcement, just to speak to your concern about, calling someone on the person who's living next door to you, part of the reason that, Commissioner DeBonne described how sometimes these open cases takes a long time to work them through. Part of the reason that they do take a long time to go to move through is code enforcement is really really gracious and thoughtful and kind of compassionate towards people. So, I guess what I'm saying is people shouldn't be worried about calling someone in because we're gonna work with them. We're gonna try to do the right thing. I mean, people who are really just don't care about the impacts that they're having on anyone else. Those, eventually we get pretty tough with them. But I mean, code enforcement is really up there. They're kind, compassionate, people who also are trying to move the ball down the court to the goal.
And I completely agree. I think the fear is that from what they told me, once the enforcement happens, it is disclosed who reported them. So that's where, us as the HOA coming in, reporting anonymously is probably opening the door of them just not, hopefully not getting that neighbor versus neighbor.
Right.
So
Or maybe neighbors could talk to each other and just all do it at the same time.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I think that maybe for a long time, there just hasn't been a lot of attention to this here in this area. And I think that it's just sort of come to a point where there's gonna be more. So that's my point. If there's anything you guys could do, or any venues you see to try to help with that, any of these issues, we would appreciate.
I have a code enforcement that I go to every year, June 20th, and it has taken years. And now the people are actually accruing significant fines, but it's still there. And I feel so badly for all those neighbors, right down the road, because it's one way in and out. And it's like a fire trap. So, and I just was on with Angie, having our code enforcement. She is absolutely lovely. Somebody called and the man who built their houses in their neighborhood did not get certificates of occupancy. This was like decades ago. So now this person wants to do something, and now he is supposed to catch up on all those things. And, it's just really interesting, the dynamics. Don't let things keep building though. Honestly, let us know so that we can stop this, because it's for the good of everyone. We're talking right now about getting $20 million for South County for water and fire protection through a federal funding, through a grant. And if we get that funding, if we have these problems that you're saying, where people are not following the rules, they don't have their permits, and the septic is just going into ground, it's just, we've got to stop it. Yeah, we have to stop it. And thank you for testifying today.
Thank you guys for coming. I really appreciate it. I hope you come back.
Yeah, we will.
Maybe we'll get more people.
So I'm available for like the board meeting, the neighborhood association.
Yeah, thank you. We'll have an annual meeting in August, so.
Okay.
Great. Thank you. Did you fill out a form? It's there. Okay. Do we have anyone else in the room that wants to testify? No one else in the room? Oh, could you please? Thank you.
Hmm.
I'm not sure.
We can always drop.
Forward to hearing.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the time. I'm Matthew Muchna. I'm here representing Envision Bend as the executive director and celebrating and sharing the completion of the community's vision action plan that finished this past year after about 17 months of community survey interviews. And I think, again, a high level sort of note of just where can we weave these efforts in, even with the Newberry Regional Partnership? Is there a way possibly in the plan to call out the vision action plan that Envision Bend has been a part of guiding, which has been centric, but really it's for Greater Bend and recognizing how regional we all are. Should have mentioned, but I'm a homeowner in Redmond, but I have
Right.
family here in Sun River, so I'm down a lot, checking in on the house, or I'm helping my mother-in-law with different tasks. So I spend a lot of time in South County, recreating, fishing, and going to music concerts, things like that. So I'm down here a lot, and I think the regional approach to these planning efforts is key, and the county is a lead. And I think tying in some of these efforts would be helpful to showcase the different pieces that are there, and then provide some leadership to align. The second high-level comment I just wanted to make is to Nick and Nicole and other staff, and just say thank you for the collaboration and the back and forth on these planning documents as we work behind the scenes to align the efforts. But also recognize as a nonprofit organization, you can lean on us, for community engagement or how can we help convene and bring more people to these sorts of events. We want to help in those ways as a convening organization. I think we have to get innovative. There's a lot of working families and parents and folks that aren't maybe on the newsletter or haven't heard about certain channels. So how can we work together to help spread the word? So that would be my other ask of partnership and just moving forward. And I think there's a real opportunity to grow civic engagement in our region, especially in South County. And I think when you do that and you give people the tools to get their not only voice complaints, but hands-on potentially crafting a solution, it ripples, and you create more visionary actions and attitudes throughout the county. And so I think this effort's really important, and appreciate all the hard work on this from the commissioners and from the county staff. So thank you for being in Sun River and for the time.
So Matthew, my question is, do you ride your bike all the way down here? Or
I rode it from my mother-in-law's house. I did, yeah, but not all the way.
Here, yeah.
because I remember you said you
It's
rode
better.
from Redmond to Bend, so I
Yes.
just had to ask.
Yeah, I like, if on a good day, I take.
Well, it's a
either
perfect day today.
Massachusetts Transit, and then I'll bike home if I have the time, but yeah, on Old Bend Redmond Highway.
Well, one of the items you mentioned is getting the word out and inviting people to the process. And we are in a time where people are getting information to different paths. And it is kind of troubling to think, okay, we're letting people know we're here. And it's good that people aren't marching in here upset with this process, but we're looking for input. And we just don't have common information channels right now, which is really a challenge.
I think it's worth like conversation with a lot of the civic and planning organizations to talk about what's working, what's not, how can we get innovative to reach the people that don't have time, maybe come to this meeting or weren't aware of it.
Okay.
We have received a lot of written input along
Yeah.
the way.
At times.
So I do wonder if some of the folks who have, written us a very long, thoughtful letter in the past are just kind of feeling like, okay, I gave my input and I don't need to come back, but I would definitely like to see more people engaged. And one of the things I wanted to ask Matt is whether Envision Bend is working or connecting at all with this Newberry Regional Partnership.
Yeah.
Which they don't use the word vision, but it is kind of a visioning organization. So
Yeah, I mean, the 2040 plan, the Vision Action Plan, Newberry Regional Partnership, they're all North Stars, they're a dot on the horizon you can barely see, but it gives us enough to all start pulling towards something. And I think gives us the steps. And yeah, so I just recently met with Kathy and the representative of COIC around the Newberry Regional Partnership. And I think there's a ton of opportunity, especially in La Pine, as one of the fastest or the fastest growing community to get people out and connect with the civic centers that do exist, the churches, the sporting events, the riding groups, things like that, and help flesh out what they think and feel. Because oftentimes those things that are said in backyard barbecues don't always make it to this, this level. And I think tying that into the Newberry Regional Partnership will be great.
Thank you.
Okay, so maybe we should have had a big backyard barbecue.
I think a barbecue, food,
Yeah.
music.
I know, I'm thinking food could have really maybe,
Today's the first day. of
maybe
field.
Jim will,
That's true.
Jim will host us, so. Isn't that what you raised your hand
Yeah,
for?
there you go.
Thanks, Jim. Thank you, Matthew. Okay, anyone else in the room? Do we have some raised hands online?
I do.
Good.
Miranda has been picking my rating.
Okay.
See what we got here.
Miranda, thank you for being patient.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Sorry, I couldn't make it in because it's right after I had a meeting, although it's 3:40, I probably could have driven by now, but so I'll just start. First, I do want to give a plug for how awesome Nicole is. I've really been putting a lot of effort into getting Three Rivers voices heard, and getting folks attending things. And, I want to keep supporting that. What I will say is I still think we need to provide a little bit more clarity in some of these documents that Three Rivers is not La Pine, it's not Sun River. And we talk about La Pine being the fastest growing city. But we're kind of missing that Three Rivers is the fastest growing non-city, I guess, in Deschutes County. We talk about how it's growing, but it's already grown. Our population is greater than La Pine, than Sisters, than Terrebonne. And to what Andrea was saying, we really are missing out on a lot of the resources because we don't have that same representation. We really rely on the county. So, our community is really a lot of volunteer run. We have a 3-person for our special road districts that manage a city size amount of roads. And I'm spending time trying to get after school programs into Three Rivers. Campfire Oregon is now coming out there. I just really want to give a plug for really pushing the South County plan. And I think that the 2040 plan should encourage this and make it a priority in their notes. And I know we talk about the DEQ water issue, and what it does to people, but maybe we're not at toxic levels yet for people, but we are seeing that it's causing pretty significant issues for fish in the Little Deschutes. So from an environmental perspective, we need to be doing that before we even start addressing what we're dealing with kids. And I'll add, my husband likes to call it a unintentional community, which is essentially what we are. We were partitioned in 1/2 acre lots, and ideally people thought there wasn't going to be the growth there was, but there has been. And it's not just that we're paying taxes and not seeing what we should be getting in return, but we're paying more taxes than even folks that live in the city of Bend. We see some of the other things that are really common is because we don't have the same after school programs and opportunities for teens. Oftentimes we see them not making great decisions, and we don't have like scheduled police patrol like Lapine or a place like that might, because we just don't have the representation. It's us having to call into the sheriffs and then being annoyed because we're always calling in. And so it's how do we get the county to speak up and see us and take this opportunity with the 2040 plan to recognize that we have we're your 4th biggest city. We're your 4th highest population of students. When we ask for things like safe routes to schools, being listed in the TSP, that gets ignored because we're not an unincorporated community, and we're in a weird box of because we're not an unincorporated community, we don't get the same say. But what our plan should be doing is acknowledging that the need's there and that needs to change, as opposed to just saying we can't do anything about it. Sorry, it's all the time's up.
Great. Thank you very much for sharing.
Yes, thank you, Miranda.
Could I just ask, I think you said per capita or per household, do you feel like you're paying more taxes than in other parts of the county? Could you explain that to me a little bit, or give me a little bit of background?
Some folks from our neighborhood, I think Tony chatted with them, kind of
Her
presented.
last name.
Sorry. What was that?
Okay.
Sorry, there's another conversation going on here.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead. Please go ahead now.
Yeah, I think that Tony was chatting with some folks from our neighborhood about it, but once we started evaluating it, because we've got our special road districts taxes on top, but we still pay just as much in county fees, that we have a tax rate. I can't remember if it's per square footage or how exactly it is, but that's greater than City of Bend. So it's an interesting dynamic where we pay for special road districts, but we don't get a reduction in the county cost, which is largely, I know it covers a bunch of things, but it covers a lot of resources we don't get, and including road. And so because of those adding up together, it ends up being pretty significant. I myself, I think it was $800 just on my house, and then I have 2 properties, so they were each individually another $200. So just in special road districts, in addition to the county taxes, it was almost $1,000 that I paid on top of what I already paid to the county and all the other things.
Got it. Yeah. I mean, for clarity, we don't use your general fund, your property tax dollars for roads. Your county roads work is done through primarily through gas tax revenue. But it is true that if the county is receiving gas tax revenue that you paid when you bought gas, and then you're also paying your special road district, it's kind of like that's where you're getting taxed twice, essentially.
I should know that as a state ODOT state employee, but I think the bigger point is we're not feeling we're getting the resources, and we're paying more than what everybody's paying because of this on top of the special road districts. It's really interesting too. The county pays the special road districts to plow some of the roads that we are also paying special road districts costs on. So there's a little bit of double counting, but I just also want to give props to people like Andrea and our special road districts folks. We are really a volunteer run community. We would love to take some of that weight off our shoulder and really get the support that we need. And I really think that the South County plan, and I know the Newberry Regional Plan is going, and I know Kathy's done a great job of listening to add Three Rivers into the context and the language we use. but we still aren't asking the questions in that plan around what about Three Rivers Elementary School when we talk about, resources for the community down here. So I would love to see the county prioritize it as much as all of these volunteers are putting their time and effort into.
I know that I know through participation in the MPO, the Transportation Planning Organization that covers Bend and a little bit broader, that that a lot of those safe routes to schools projects are done with state or federal grant money. But the question is for you guys, who would be applying for those grants? Because without a grant writer, you don't get the grant money. And that's a really valuable, important thing to point out. Thank you.
Can I just add one thing onto that? Because that was a really big, unfortunate point as we were commenting into the TSP and why sometimes it's hard for folks from our community because we don't necessarily get the right feedback. It was not passed up to you all that 5 or 10 people had emailed in and asked in the transportation plan where it says Terrebonne and Tumalo should be considered for safe routes to school grants. Multiple people emailed in and said, please add Three Rivers to that. We were told no, and that did not get passed up to the Planning Commission. It did not get passed up to the commissioners. And we have more school-age kids. And yeah, we don't have Sun River isn't going to pursue safe routes to school grounds. The only thing we have is the county. So when they're listing the places that they're responsible for representing to get grants, and I understand it's not your funding, but just having it listed there is super important. So if Three Rivers was on that list, that just means we have the first step we need in order to potentially apply for those grants.
So yeah, we were notified of that, though. I mean, please understand, we heard about it. I understand the press was there and I saw that. This is Commissioner DeBonne. And the urban unincorporated communities, Tumalo, Terrebonne, Sun River is in that situation. But when it comes to Three Rivers in the areas outside, it all kind of fits in the same bucket. And this is according to land use. And so one of my thoughts is we're going to work real well together here with this Newberry Regional Partnership and the Newberry Country Plan chapter of the comp plan. And I'll learn about this together and figure out what is the next step. These were rural platted properties for summertime recreation purposes in the 50s, 60s. And now we're, 70, 80 years later, and we're scratching our heads, seeing a lot more people there. We're seeing people set up out of the county code, and we do need to take it to a different level. So let's all do that together in this next few steps of the regional partnership and chapter.
Can I give one more plug? So Three Rivers Elementary School is actually within unincorporated county, within the unincorporated boundary. So Three Rivers, the community, the census designated area is not, but Three Rivers Elementary is actually within an unincorporated community boundary.
Understood.
Thank you. Thank you, Miranda.
Thank you.
Thanks. Sorry I couldn't make it. Glad that a few folks were able to join.
We're going to have a barbecue next time. So just remember.
Perfect.
Great, you could join us virtually.
Stephen, are there any other raised hands? Has anybody joined the room that would like to testify? Would you care to testify?
I didn't prepare anything. I was concerned about some of the stuff that I thought might come up today. Do I need to sit up front?
Well, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Yeah, come on. It's an
Last.
informal crowd.
Yes, and just fill out a blue sheet when you get done. Thank you so much.
The microphone can be a toy
Guys, yes.
when
Everything.
if you need some entertainment.
Yeah.
My name is Karen Ivy. I've moved here from Virginia after 25 years in law enforcement. One of the things that tremendously concerns me is watching the homeless and transient and crime moving south from Bend down to this area. Watching stuff getting set up in the woods where we don't feel safe walking down there anymore. There were 2 campers down there last weekend. I'm just concerned that we're gonna be seeing China Hat Road, that situation moving down towards South County. The evidence of it coming this direction is there. And what I'm afraid of is that, that spillover is going to affect this community and that it's gonna be accepted, by the board of supervisors. I am very concerned because, after my experience in law enforcement, I know that the only way that somebody will improve their own situation is if they are uncomfortable. And I believe that the current situation is up there, that the crime and all of that, those folks up there feel very comfortable doing what they're doing. There's no consequences for their behavior. The law enforcement is not enforcing the laws. The 10-day or 14-day allowing to encamp is not being enforced, and they're setting up their own community and it's accepted. And that should not be acceptable. It is impacting all of the families that are down in that area the same way it's affecting everybody up in the Hunnell Road area. Drug use, everything. It has ruined the housing prices for the people that purchased their homes, not anticipating that this was going to happen. And I don't want to see it happen down here as well. We have so many people that are not here year round, and so their houses are vacant. They are prime victims for people coming in and the burglaries that occur. We have in Three Rivers been seeing it happening down in our area. So I just am wanting to make sure that that is addressed, because I don't believe that the answer that has been pushed around of monitoring these places with so-called rules is going to work. We are not seeing any enforcement of just civil behavior, including having neighbors up there talking about shootings on a regular basis. That's completely unacceptable, and I don't see any response or anything being done about it. We don't want to be the next ones that have the repercussion. That's all I have to say.
And
Yes.
are you tracking the point in time count information for the Central Oregon region?
I am not. I don't know anything about that. So I'd love to, because I'd love to get more information. I just follow what I hear from local law enforcement that talk about it, and I hear what's on the news.
I mean, one of the most interesting things, and I'm trying to connect the dots between what you just shared and this information, but
Sure.
one of the most important, interesting things about the point in time count data for this year, it was collected just in January, is that numbers of the homeless numbers in the Bend vicinity, including out to China Hat Road, and the Redmond vicinity have gone down. And
The what has gone down?
total homeless numbers have gone down, while the total homeless count for the Tri-County region has gone up. And
How
so
is that even remotely possible when you go out and you see the Dirt World community and you see what's happening out there?
Yeah.
I didn't live here before 2 years. If that is in fact true, I don't know why anyone would move to the Bend area if they have to drive by and experience that situation.
Carolyn?
the explanation I would give is, well, and it may be that people are moving out of the Bend and Redmond area farther south. But I think the positive explanation is that, the Bend City Council, the Redmond City Council in the last year and a half have gotten very serious about creating pathways out of homelessness for people, real meaningful pathways out of homelessness, safe places for people to lay their head at night for a little while. And, the kinds of wraparound services that people need to actually pull their lives together and move on to a different state. They would be, the success there would be even better if there was more affordable housing for people to get onto, but they are having some significant success already.
Well, I've seen the proposals. I have a hard time believing that people that will not conform to shelter rules will conform to the communities set up for homelessness.
I don't know, from place to place, the composition, the mix of people, experiencing homelessness is really different. But, you know, many of the places that, we talk about, you know, Hunnell Road, China Hat, there's a real mix of people. There are working people who just can't afford rent, you know, go to work every day, sleep in a car at night. There are homeless families. There are people who are struggling with mental health or addiction challenges, and there are lawless elements as well. But you know, when the city of Bend closed down Hunnell Road, I saw immediately, you know, a couple of people went to the St. Vincent's Village in Bend. A couple of people went to Congregate Shelter, you know, and so there are people who will make use of shelter and transitional housing and services when given the opportunity to, and then there's other folks who won't. And you know, I would like to see us providing pathways out of homelessness for the folks who are open, you know, who want to take that path. And then I'm very happy to have law enforcement deal with the remainder. And you know, it's a much smaller, when you get the people out of the woods who have the chance to, you know, are capable and want to do something different, the number of people left is much smaller and it's much more manageable law enforcement.
How often or how frequently do you personally go and interact with the people that have chosen to set up their lifestyle as in a homeless encampment and ask them whether or not they are seeking to improve their situation or if they're just comfortable living in the situation that they're in and imposing on all the neighbors?
I'm out on site somewhere where there's unauthorized homeless camping, well, at least once a month.
Thank you.
Okay, Hunnell Road is actually cleaned up because I went to the veterans ceremony when they rededicated the Vietnam Memorial. And it was totally cleaned up. I actually was able to park my vehicle there and walk down. So that was really nice to see. I actually visited Juniper Ridge, heard from the county that it's way better. Okay, so the next Monday I went. I have a video on my phone now that my phone put together for me with music that's totally inappropriate. We have 14, I know it doesn't go together, but there's 14 campsites there, but there's clearly a chop shop, and I have communicated that to law enforcement. There is a chop shop there. You can see it. There's at least 14 cars parked around in this one area. And law enforcement is working constantly on pulling out the people that are doing the drugs in China Hat. You know, I think we just had another shooting today, 2 days ago. They are incredibly aware of what is going on. And then we do have a project up north in Redmond where we want to pull out people on. They've been on this land forever. And we need, and you're right, are they going to move? But they have to move because we want to transfer it to the state, and the state, of course, will not take it unless they are off of the land. So, but in our jails currently, I was told by Captain Schultz a month and a half ago that 80% of the people that are in the jail are either mentally ill, they have substance use disorder, or both. And he came from Portland, and he said originally, maybe a decade or two ago, it was only 30%. But we have such a drug problem. You know, Measure 110 really brought in a lot of things that we really didn't want to bring here. So the good news is it has been somewhat reversed, recriminalized, and hopefully those people are going to quit coming. You know, you can go onto websites and you can see China Hat, great place to move to. And, you know, people come across the country to come here.
I think it's unfortunate that just like the drug situation happened, and now we're having to reverse course, the same situation is going to occur with this homeless situation. That we're going to be trying to clean up a mess that has been allowed to continue. And homeless people are now drawn to this area because they're made very comfortable and allowed to continue doing what they're doing.
Well, we have a wonderful, wonderful safe parking program in Redmond, which the county participates with our land. Rick Russell runs his program. Last year's number, he was 85% successful in people transferring them on. But he'll say to me, Patty, if it's a disabled man and he's on a wait list for a house and he's 74 years old, he's never going to get on. He's never going to find that house to move to or that apartment to move to. But Rick has really done an amazing job. And let me tell you, his program is so successful. And right now he is looking for more funding. And yet his program is one of the best out there. He has a great team of people. And, you know, I try to talk to him almost every day. I so appreciate what he does because his group, they are clearly making a difference. It took us a couple years. We had county land right off of 126. They finally set up Oasis Village. Now you know, it's been in the works. Everything with government seems to take way too long, but we've been really working on making a difference. We even just had Senator Johnson, who ran for governor, sent a check to Rick Russell's program today because somebody asked her to, because it's a program that works. So need to get more funding for those programs that do work. And it was good to see that Hunnell Road was cleaned up. But when I came down Highway 97 from Redmond, you can clearly see out on the county's 50 acres that it's still not cleaned up. Even though we're told, and I know it's better than last August, it's not good enough. It's still, there's a lot of don't come here, yeah, we'll shoot you if you come here. There's a lot of really violent signs there.
Yeah.
So is he 2 years old?
Yeah, almost. It's the cat or it's the dog chasing the tail. When I watch all the money that's going to cleaning stuff up, they move to a new location and then the cities or counties paying more money to clean up that location. They're just doing a circle around and around.
And our veterans program at the Veterans Village, we have had 30 at least veterans that have moved on to housing from the Veterans Village. I don't know if you visited or not, but it is an unbelievable program, incredibly successful. Thank you to everyone there that funds it. We just added another 7 cabins to that program. So we're now at 22 there. That's on county land within our safety campus. But it is an outstanding program, really making a difference for those veterans. So there are some good things that we are doing. Of course, it's not enough, but we're trying.
I would just kind of reemphasize that what keeps us from chasing our tail, what keeps us from just shooing people out of one place and then ending up unauthorized camping in another place is the things that are the kinds of things that Commissioner Dare just mentioned. Safe parking, tiny house villages, etc. These are the pathways out of homelessness. And I believe that those point in time count data indicate that the investments that we've made, the programs that we've started are starting to bend the curve on this issue. Unless people are just dispersing into South County and other places because they don't find it hospitable in Bend or Redmond anymore.
But the good news is the safe parking program maintains a relationship with people to make sure that they are still finding their way when they do get into housing. And I think that's incredibly critical. Right now, Bend has a 10% vacancy in their apartments, and yet they're at $1,800 to $3,500 a month. So they're very expensive, but there are opportunities now because the apartment pricing is going to be coming down. It's clearly really higher than it has been historically for a long time.
Well, I've spent 25 years in probation and parole work, so I'm very familiar with this whole narrative. And again, unless there are consequences for bad behavior, and unless you are uncomfortable, including myself, until my jeans get tight, I will have dessert every evening. When my jeans get tight and summer's coming, I start preparing.
And I just buy bigger jeans. Dang it, I didn't know this.
That's the way it goes. If you are comfortable, you will continue to sit in a pot that starts to boil.
So this is a rocky road, no matter which direction we go, and we're going forwards. We're not going backwards right now. We may be displacing people from Bend and Redmond. So I understand we've got all the public lands around us, which has always been the dream opportunity to just ride your bike or ride your horse out there. All of a sudden, people are just hanging out. And we've got, engaged personnel at the Forest Service, but not the right resources. And, we could go all over kind of how are we going to get over this? And it just changed on us recently with the federal land is what I'm referring to then. So, but now you've met us, you've heard us all speak.
No,
please. Be engaged.
In 2018, I heard from the people then. In 2019, I met with the Forest Service. I met with the new director. And then I just had coffee with her last December. And she goes, well, Patty, I go, Holly, if you would have done something in 19, we wouldn't have the nightmare we have today. And she goes, oh, it wasn't that bad. I go, but Holly, if you would have stopped it then, we wouldn't have what we have today. So, and Congressman Benz is actually working on that. That is in his area. And he has put a lot of tremendous energy into making a difference there. So we'll see what happens.
Thank you for joining us.
My hope again is that the barriers are up and that when we start to see a problem, we're gonna nip it in the bud before it runs into what we do.
Thank you so much for those
Thank you.
comments. And it was very good.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, no. He was.
Thank you.
Yeah. Is there anyone else in the audience that cares to testify? Do we have anyone else on Zoom? No?
Just one note, I've got a document from the mid-60s or late 60s is a background on planning here for Deschutes County that was published by our Community Development Department. If anybody wants to flip through it, this was handed to me 10 years ago by a niece of one of the previous commissioners, Prandy. And so it's just interesting seeing what it was looking like in the 50s and the 60s, because that was a official work product of our planning department 60 something, 70 years ago.
Oh, you should make copies for all of us.
So there's a PDF available too. I
Oh,
can
good.
send it out.
Okay, great. Any other comments for today? Nicole, would you like to close with anything, please? And we do thank everyone for taking the time. We really appreciate hearing from you, and next time when we come down to South County, we'll do something more so that we attract a bigger audience. I think that's really a great
Are you afraid of
suggestion.
doing something to upset everybody so we fill the room?
No, we're gonna have a barbecue.
Oh,
Like Matthew's idea. We're gonna have a barbecue and then more people go like, oh my gosh, free food.
no.
Let's come. They'll get some of their tax money back.
Yeah, thank you, commissioners, and for those who provided comment, and for those who are here listening in today as well. So as I mentioned in the beginning of my presentation, we will have another hearing in Sisters next Tuesday, the 30th at Sisters City Hall. So feel free to spread the word to those that you know in the Sisters area as well. But wanted to also note, myself, I'm a senior planner for the county. We also have Will Groves, our planning manager here, and there are quite a few different planning projects going on that we are happy to talk to you about aside from this project. So if you have any questions for us, we're happy to stick around after this meeting and tell you a little bit more about what the Deschutes County Community Development Department is doing. But with that, thank you very much, commissioners.
Thank you so much. And if you do have any comments, you may, of course, submit written comments too. We would appreciate hearing from you if you didn't testify today in person. And please know that if you are so excited by this opportunity, you can come next Tuesday at Sisters at 3 at the City Hall. So then our public hearing has been, we're over.